What's up, everybody? I want to talk about a concept that people oftentimes skip over when they first start off in anatomy and physiology. And I can tell you right now that if I had gone ahead and grasped this concept from the jump when I first started in anatomy and physiology, it would have helped me a whole lot. And excuse the chirping in the background. The power is out because of the hurricane, so just wanted to go ahead and get this recorded and get this in. When you're talking about anatomy and physiology, you got to understand, we treat it like a class. We treat it like a science, but really it takes several different sciences to understand anatomy and physiology. You've got to understand histology, biology, and chemistry to really understand the concepts of anatomy and physiology. And to be honest with you, it really needs to be like histology, biology, chemistry, biochemistry, organic chemistry, all thrown in there together. But for the sake of this discussion, we're just going to use histology, biology, and chemistry because this gets talked about in a lot of different textbooks. So you'll be able to find this after I'm done talking about it. But when you're talking about anatomy and physiology, really you need to be able to understand these three sciences, because these three sciences go on to break down what's commonly referred to as the hierarchy, the organizational hierarchy of anatomy and physiology. You start off with an organism, right? Which is you and me. We are considered organisms. And a human body is made up of 11 organ systems. Okay? So you've got organ systems like the digestive system, like the cardiovascular system, the skeletal system, the integumentary system, all those systems. And then each one of those organ systems are made up of organs. And if you take an individual organ, you'll find that an organ is made up of two or more tissues that come together to work towards a common goal. That's what makes an organ. And if you take a tissue, it's really just a group of cells that come together to work towards a common goal, which is a tissue. And then if you look at a cell, it's a group of organelles that work together to continue a common goal, which is a cell. And organelles, they are made up of and they create macromolecules, which are just large molecules put together, and molecules are made up of atoms. And the whole time you're going through anatomy and physiology, for every concept they talk about in it, they'll start off somewhere randomly on this organizational ladder, on this hierarchy. They'll start off somewhere on this organizational ladder, and then they'll discuss concepts either moving up or moving down. Now, here's the trick. This is where it gets magical right here. Anything that you're studying in anatomy and physiology at any given moment in time, if it's confusing, figure out where on this ladder the concept is. And then for the question that they're asking, ask yourself, are they referencing something going this way or are they referencing going that way? Let's use an example really quick. Let's say that they are talking about cells and that they're talking about muscle cells. Okay? And so they're talking about a muscle cell, right? And they go on to tell you that muscle cells are able to contract because of myofibrils. All right. Well, what's a myofibril is the question you should be asking. Well, we're talking about muscle cells, and myofibrils are inside of the cell. So if it's inside the cell, that means it's smaller than the cell. And everything smaller goes down, everything bigger goes up. So if it's talking about a myofibril, then we must be going in this direction, and it's an organelle. Okay? And so a myofibril is some type of organelle inside of a cell that helps the muscle cell do what it needs to do, which is contraction. And when we get a group of these muscle cells together, if a group of them work together, they are a tissue. So we have a group of these muscle cells working together as a tissue, and it makes that whole organ, which the organ is just a muscle. It makes that muscle move. All right. So let's go back. So someone's talking to you about a muscle cell. They start saying, hey, a muscle cell can contract. It says that it can contract because it has myofibrils. Well, it must be something inside the cell, so it's smaller than the cell. It's an organelle, and it's inside the muscle cell, and it's a myofibril, and those myofibrils help the muscle cell contract. Well, if you get a group of these muscle cells contracting, then it makes this muscle contract, which makes you move, right? So when they start saying, hey, your myofibrils are made out of protein, that protein is a macromolecule, which makes up an organelle, which is found inside of a muscle cell, which as a group put together is a tissue, and that group of tissues work together to make the entire organ, the muscle, move. And you have to continue to walk this ladder out when you're in A&P. It's going to help you understand so many different concepts in the science. And if you get into A&P and you get confused about what in the world they're talking about, it might be because you need to go back and look at a specific science. So if you're weak in understanding what an organelle is and you don't really understand a cell, you want to go back to biology and start looking at what biology has to say about cells. If you're weak when it comes to talking about macromolecules and molecules, it might mean that you need to go back and brush up on chemistry. So now we've pinpointed where you need to go to get strong again in what you're doing. And we can talk about this even more so as we go along through the semester.